We have here a simple form that was previously using React hook forms, but now this has been refactored to use the new useActionState hook from React 19, and as you saw here, we have the loading state, we have the validation, and the code is much smaller. So let's see the difference. Here now we have our new form which is using useActionState. We are going to cover that one, how is it being used, in a second. I first want to show you the difference in the file size when we are using here our React hook forms and here useActionState hook. So here we are adding Zod resolver use form from React hook forms. We are using all these shadcn components for our form. Then we have our form schema inside the component. We move this one to the backend. Then we have here a loading state, which we are replacing with isLoading from useActionState. Then we are creating a form on submit function. We don't have anything like that here. Then if you worked with shadcn, you know how big can these form fields get. But here we have only label and the error message, nothing else. And same for the text field. If you check here, check out how big is this form field, and here we have only label, text area, and error message. Just simple and nothing more. And let's now see how to do it. So here in our OpenAI completion, so this component is basically a form that is sending the prompt to AI, and we are getting back the AI result. Here we have a getCompletion method, which is a server action, and it is receiving here a previous state, but we are skipping it in our case because we don't need it. And it is receiving form data, which we need to send to the OpenAI API. So here we have our form values, its prompt and model, and we are checking it here with Zod if it's valid or not. And based on that, we are getting success, error, or data. So here we have our completion schema, which is now separated from the component. We can use it wherever we need. So we can use it in the backend with server actions or on the front end with our components. And based on that, we are returning different errors if we have any by Zod. So in case we have any errors, you can see here the type of data that we are returning from this function. So we can have a full array of errors by strings and values. And here in OpenAI completion component, we are catching them like this. So we are checking the completion result error by every model, so we can know if we have some problems with Zod or not. And that's the feature here. So if we click get completion, we can see that we need to put in something inside our completion text area. So backend is pretty much the same. Only difference is that we are receiving form data in totally different way. And when you get past the validation here with Zod, then you can do whatever you want. In this specific example, we are getting the OpenAI API, etc. And then here on the front-end part, we are getting the completion result here as a response from our server action, and we can see the type here, so we have errors and values, and based on that we can display if we have any errors or if we got the value. Then here, this is the action, so here we are sending actually the action, and we see that we are using it here as an action in our form. And the third parameter is the loading parameter, and we can see everything also in the useActionState documentation from React. I'm going to put also this one in the description if you want to read it. There are a bunch of examples that you can just follow and test it out, and I encourage you to do so to learn more about this and how can you use new React 19 hooks. And the last thing I have to show you is how should you display your results. So here we can see that we are getting the completion result if we have values, text, and in our AI we are sending in the end, here it is, so we are getting actual result from OpenAI API, and we are sending it in the end with an empty error object, and we have our text value. So in case that we have it here, we are just displaying it and we can test it out. So here, if I say give me 10 orcish names, and if we get completion, so here you can see we have the loading part and we have our actual result. So this one is coming from OpenAI API and we are past the validation. So everything was successful and everything is working the same like with React Hook Forms, but instead we have much smaller file. We have the loading state, which is really awesome. We don't have to create anymore like use state and things like that. And it's much easier to send an action here inside the server action and use here the schema and all the things, and to have everything based in backend and not anymore everything here on the frontend part in some component. This project is shared with you. You have it in the description below. You can try it out on your local machine and you can see the difference. For example, completion now here is using the new useActionState hook, and images, for example, is using the React Hook Forms. So until I refactor it, you can check the differences and see how much is this one better.